The writers of My Little Pony borrowed heavily from classical myth. Actually, they borrowed pretty heavily from stories of every period and place. But there are certain themes and motifs especially prevalent in classical myth that deserve special attention. A theme is a big idea, an idea that drives and permeates a story or a set of stories. Mythical themes are usually most meaningful to the culture that generates them, but they can pop up again in unexpected places like a kid's show. A motif is a distinctive part of a pattern. Motifs in myth and folktale are usually universal, but there are certain ones that are important to both classical myth and My Little Pony. These show up particularly in the episodes Friendship is Magic, Sonic Rain Boom, The Return of Harmony, and Magical Mystery Cure. The two-parter pilot, Friendship is Magic, is a heroic legend preceded by a divine myth. A divine myth is a story about divine beings. The prologue of Friendship is Magic is a divine myth about the royal sisters. Royal sibling rivalry is a pretty standard mythical motif. Just think Romulus and Remus, but sisters instead of brothers. The younger sister, Luna, goes to the dark side because her older sister Celestia gets all the attention, and upsets the natural balance of day and night. This is the prohibition and violation motif. A character breaks a law or taboo, like when Prometheus stole fire from Olympus. Then there's a divine struggle and the rule breaker is banished, again like Prometheus. Between time out on the moon for 1,000 years and a vulture eating her liver once a day for 1,000 years, seems like Nightmare Moon received the kinder punishment. The structure of the rest of the episode is that of a heroic legend, which is a kind of mega motif incorporating a bunch of smaller motifs in a certain order to tell a specific kind of story. The first piece of the pattern is the divine origin motif. The hero has divine or supernatural origins. Twilight isn't Celestia's progeny, but she is her protege, and that's close enough. She's a powerful mage, and at the beginning of the episode it's established that she doesn't have friends and doesn't understand friendship. A little detour will show that Twilight's oversight of friendship could threaten the ponies around her, leading to the danger to society motif. In the movie Equestria Girls, we learn that Twilight isn't Celestia's first protege. Sunset Shimmer was before her. Sunset Shimmer rejected friendship the way Twilight does at the beginning of Friendship is Magic, and because she never makes friends, she goes to the dark side. The events in Equestria Girls have nothing to do with this analysis, but the movie is set within the same parameters of the show, and so the lesson about the dangers of power without friendship can still be applied here. If Twilight had never gone to Ponyville, she could have turned out evil too. So she unknowingly presents a threat to those around her, like a classical hero, and she is compelled to leave her home on a quest. In this case, defeat Nightmare Moon. So much for the setup. Normally, at this point, the classical hero meets his truest companion, then because of some transgression, is placed under the power of an enemy and compelled to do impossible things, which of course he accomplishes. Twilight goes to Ponyville and meets her future friends, though they don't bond right away because Twilight is still resisting friendship. Then Nightmare Moon hijacks the summer sun celebration, implies that she has Celestia under her power, and Twilight and the other 5 have to go on a quest for the Elements of Harmony, a magical weapon. Magical weapons are a common motif in classical myth. They seem to be rare in My Little Pony, but just as important. There are only 3, the Elements of Harmony, the Crystal Heart, and the Alicorn Amulet. Of these 3, 2 are crucial to the rule of harmony in Equestria. Compared to the Elements of Harmony and the Crystal Heart, the Alicorn Amulet is kind of insignificant. It increases a unicorn's power and corrupts their soul, but compared to the rainbow explosions of the Elements of Harmony and the climate-altering aurora of the Crystal Heart, it's almost petty. Anyway, back to the hero's journey. The quest of the classical hero usually leads to the underworld, or some divine otherworld. But in My Little Pony, it goes in a more folksy direction, and the main 6 are sent into the woods. This into the woods motif is more common in folktale than heroic legend. In classical myth, the heroes who venture into the wild forest are usually hunting some legendary beast or spirit, like the Nemean lion in the legend of Heracles. The heroes who come out the same as they went in are the lucky ones. The forest is a wild and dangerous place, and a character who goes in is liable to find himself transformed into a stag and hunted by his own hounds, like Actaeon. Worse still, the god of the wild or the lord of the forest could take an interest in him, either capturing him or driving him insane with fear. The woods, like deep water, of which there is surprisingly little in Equestria, represent secrets and the subconscious. A hero who isn't prepared to do some serious soul-searching should stay out. On the other hand, Hoof, if he needs to discover an important truth and is willing to risk everything, it's just the place.
Especially if there's candy apples in there. What? Those things are good.
The Everfree Forest also illustrates a common theme in heroic legend: the duality of nature and civilization. The hero is usually torn between the two. Nature is useful to civilization, but is also dangerous and uncontrollable, just like the hero. Equestrian society seems to have a huge degree of control over nature, which they have gained by living in harmony with it. Earth ponies use their alleged connection with the soil to grow food, but they manage not to wear out the ground. Pegasi control the weather, but acknowledge the need for a balance of nasty and nice. Unicorns apparently have the power to control heavenly bodies in an orderly manner, which must require amazing concentration and discipline, and thank Celestia she took over that responsibility. Imagine Prince Blueblood in charge of the Dance of the Hours. On the other hand, Hoof, when they don't have control over it, ponies are extremely afraid of nature.
All on their own!
Anyhow, our heroines now face a series of obstacles, each of which is overcome by one or another's strength. The rock slide and Applejack's display of honesty has nothing to do with classical myth, so that can be skipped. The next big baddie is an enraged manticore, which Fluttershy befriends by kindly plucking a thorn from his paw. The beast tamed by kindness is a motif straight out of the ancient fables, called the mouse and the lion, or Androcles and the lion. A fable isn't what most people think of as myth, but it is a traditional story, so it counts. After the manticore, the forest goes dark, and our heroes see terrifying faces in the trees, Snow White style. It looks like a Disney movie, but we've already seen that the idea of the forest containing subconscious terrors is way older than color animation. Fortunately, this is Pinky's moment to shine, and she sings a silly song to fight the panic, a word said to originate in the feelings of terror inspired by the god of the wild, Pan. Then they get to the river and, say, maybe the Everfree Forest has something in common with the underworld after all. In classical myth, the hero always has to cross a body of water to reach the underworld and find the answers he seeks. Like a scary forest, deep water represents the subconscious. Rarity makes a sacrifice to becalm the sea serpent making the river unfordable, who then helps them across. Reminiscent of bribing the ferryman to let them cross the river Styx. The last motif of the main quest is the betrayal. In Friendship is Magic, Rainbow is only tempted to betray her friends. In a darker story, she would have actually done it, and then repented and redeemed herself at the end. So, with all the obstacles overcome but one, the main six rush to confront the final boss, Nightmare Moon. Twilight realizes her companions are the elements of harmony. She lets friendship into her heart, and bam! Princess Luna is back, and balance is restored. The homecoming in a heroic legend is not always quite as happy as Twilight's. She has learned that friendship is the greatest magic of all, which is the equivalent of the atonement the hero usually does to restore himself to his home. Ponyville throws a parade that resembles the triumph at the end of Star Wars Phantom Menace to celebrate the return of the main six and the princesses. Twilight's reward for her heroism is that she is allowed to remain in Ponyville with her friends, and thus the heroic legend ends, and My Little Pony Friendship is Magic gets its big kickoff. Sometimes when the hero dies, he gets to become a god. For Twilight, that has to wait until the end of Season 3.
Isn't this exciting? Are you excited? Because I'm excited. I've never been so excited